Hi, this is Patricia Stepler with Your Dream Power. And the other day I was talking about purpose in life. And do you have your purpose? And do you know what that is? Well, today I want to talk about vision. And with vision, I want you to think about this. Has there ever been a time in your life when you wanted, let's say, a new car, and you figure out what car that is, even maybe the color, and you go and you look at that car and you think about getting it, maybe even test drive it. And then over the next few weeks, while maybe you're waiting for that car, you're trying to decide if that is the one and you're going to go ahead and get that car, you start seeing that vehicle all over the place. Or have you ever gone to the eye doctor and they switch those lenses? Which one's better, first one or the second one? And maybe one's very clear and the other is not. You see, we have to have a vision of what we want, but then we have to develop clarity. And that's our subject for today. And when you stay tuned to the very end, I'm going to give you some steps on exactly what to do to develop that clarity. It was Van Gogh who says, "I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream." And that's the way we create a vision in our own lives and for what our own goals are. We create it first in our mind. We have to create that vision first and get that idea, and then we can start to build it in our reality. Keep in mind, we are co-creators in everything that we do. And I'll never forget my friend and mentor, Bob Proctor, who was a personal coach of mine for a year. I remember the first time I heard him say this. He goes, "If you can think it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand." And I'm thinking, that is crazy. How can you tell him whatever it is that you want, and as long as you can think it, you can have it? Why quickly, the more I studied Bob and the more I understood the process of how we are co-creators, the more sense it made to me. And the more I could see how it's a science. It's a process. And once you learn the process, you can repeat it over and over again. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we have a purpose. We create our vision, and then we can set our goals. So the purpose, what is it that you really, have this lifelong adventure doing? And then what's the vision that you want? And then we start to break that down into goals. But the vision is what you see in your mind's eye. What is it that you really want? Most of us never really think about it. We get so caught up in day-to-day living that we never think about what we want. I always think, it's getting close to graduation time. It's the end of April when I made this video, and we're getting close to graduation time. And I, go in and you see cards, or you're picking a card for a graduate, and they're all talking about live your dream. You can do whatever you want to do, and so on and so forth. And yet we consciously believe that. And yet how many of us have done that? How many of us are really living our dream? I would say it's probably a small percentage, because what happens? You graduate school, you go and start a job, and you get sucked in to that, day-to-day mass mentality thinking. And you start to believe, is this all there is? Is this all there is to life? But when you can create a vision of what you really want, and you decide you're going to step out and do that, then that leads you to setting your long-term and short-term goals. And you can do that after you have that vision. Thomas Edison would talk about how if he got stuck on an invention, he would just take a little cat nap, and he'd think about it. He'd hold a rock in his hand, and sometimes he'd fall asleep, and that rock would go out of his hand, and then he'd wake up. But he'd see that vision first, and then he'd get the ideas as to what to do. That's exactly what you need to do. You have to get that idea. You have to embed that into your subconscious so that the ideas will come to you. You see, as an inventor, he had the picture of what he wanted to create, to solve a problem for people. And then he would start thinking about it, thinking with the end in mind. And as he would think with the end in mind, then the ideas would come as to perhaps how to put things together to solve that issue. Well, that's the same thing you have to do. So start thinking of yourself when you're creating a vision as an inventor, and how does an inventor do that? You see, once you get that idea embedded into your mind, the idea will start to move you in the right direction, and you'll start meeting the people and the resources that you need pretty much at the right time that you need them. It's a matter of having that shift in your thought vibration and in the energy that you have. If you go into this thinking what's never going to happen, you have all this doubt and worry and negativity, you're right. It's never going to happen. I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So which one are you? Are you thinking you can? Or are you thinking you can't? Because either way, you're right. So you've got to think, what is it you really want? What is that quiet voice inside your head telling you should do, nudging you forward? This is what I see a lot of people doing. They have an idea. They start out, they move towards it. And then something happens. Maybe they hit a roadblock. Maybe they have some doubt in their own mind. Maybe somebody laughs at their idea. Maybe somebody tells them they can't do it. And pretty soon they feel like they've hit that wall and they go right back to where they were. And maybe a little bit later, they'll try it again or try something else that's similar, and they'll start moving forward and something else happens and they don't persist. And in the end, they just live a life allowing the world to toss them around. Bob said another really good statement. I just love this one. He said, most people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely from birth to death. And when their heart stops beating, it's a mere formality. I don't want your heart stopping beating to be a mere formality. I want you to achieve what it is that you want and move towards it while your heart is beating. So let me tell you a story of one thing I did a number of years ago to move me in the direction of the goal that I want and the goal that I'm doing now of coaching people. I came from the world of education. And I knew I wanted to move into a business world, but I also felt like I needed to understand business better and understand the thought process of business owners. Because I knew in my heart I wanted to work with business owners, entrepreneurs. Why? Because I wanted to help them to double, triple, quadruple their income in a year. On the other hand, I had to feel like I could relate to them. So I decided the best method for me, combining my skill set and combining the need to meet business people, was to start working with a company where I could do seminar training for entrepreneurs, business owners, managers, supervisors. So one time I decided, it was something that was in the back of my head, that quiet voice nudging you forward is in the back of my head for years, because I'd gone to such a public seminar and I thought I could do that and I could do that really well. The timing wasn't right for me. So now that the timing was right, my children were all off either working or they were in college, and the timing was right. So I started to research companies I wanted to work with. And I found 3 and applied to all 3 of them. Then I had to make a video of myself actually doing a training. That was my first time on camera, and it was a little uncomfortable. And I sent that video off to all 3 companies. Well, very quickly, one company said, "We're not really interested in you." Now, I could have looked at that as being very disheartening. I did not. So, because they weren't really the company I wanted to work with anyhow. So then the second one sent me a notice saying, "We don't have any openings right now. Send us your video again in 6 months." So I kind of jotted that on a calendar. when 6 months would be up. The third company, which is the one I really wanted to work with, I didn't hear from them. So about the time that 6 months was coming up, one day I get this phone call, and it was from the third company. And they said, we liked your video. We thought it was very professional, and we would like you to come and do further training with us to see if you are a good fit for us. Wow, that was exciting. But what you don't know is what I was doing in the meantime. You see, I kept creating that vision. Every day as I would go into the classroom of children, I was pretending that I was actually doing corporate training. And I would see myself walking in to a hotel room or a convention hall where I was doing corporate training and not just teaching children. It's not a very good word. And so I saw myself doing that day after day. That's what you have to do. You have to find that vision. You have to hold it with your willpower that we talked about yesterday. And you have to hold that image in your mind. So that's the first step. Create the vision. Have it with clarity. Why is clarity so important? Because the clearer you can make your vision, the more believable it becomes to you. And when you can see yourself in that vision doing the things you want to do, that develops even more clarity. So allow your mind to run wild and without limitations as you think of your vision. Keep in mind, we live in a very negative world, if you haven't figured that one out yet. And your spiritual part of you is perfect. So allow that part of you to come through. You see, our spiritual DNA has been virus infected throughout our life. And so we have to find ways to get past that fear and doubt and the limiting belief that we have, because none of it's true. So allow any failures of the past to be eliminated. Don't allow them to take over your idea and the vision you have. You see, I could have allowed my idea of, I didn't get this job, they didn't want me, and I could have allowed that to be a failure. I could have looked at past experiences as failures, but I did not. I kept moving forward. And then figure out your course. Plot your goals, and we'll talk more about goals in another session. But I need you to be open to the shifts that you'll need to make along the way, because success is not a straight path. And if you don't think you're going to have struggles or obstacles get in your way, you're wrong. I want you to think of a small child when they're learning to walk. Do they just stand up and walk and all of a sudden they can? Well, no. They try to take a step, they wobble back and forth, and they fall. Do we discourage them? Say, oh, you fell once, you just stay put. No, we encourage them. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. So why is it when we're going after our own goal, why do we allow ourselves to be stopped by an obstacle or a perceived failure? Yesterday, I happened to be listening to a talk show, and believe it or not, they were talking about vision. I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. So I tuned in a little bit closer and was really paying attention. And the person was talking about vision said this. He said, visions help you to do things you normally would not do to see the vision come true. I thought that was just so perfect. So when you have that vision, you have that clarity, it will allow you to do things that normally you would not do. Just that vision can come true. And I can totally agree with that statement, because I can see that happening in my own business, where the clarity of vision allows me to do things that normally I would say, I'm not doing that. So if you need to have more clarity, I suggest that you come to this Stop Chasing Shiny Objects Summit, which is May 10th through 12th. The link is in the post. And make sure you go in and register today, because you're going to help, this summit will help you to develop that clarity. And if you can't make the summit, book an appointment with me. And during that appointment, I will help you to develop the clarity and to build what it is that you need in order to accomplish your goal. This is Patricia Stepler with your Dream Power. Be the magic in your dreams.